I was feeling kind of stuck in my life and not happy with where I was waiting tables and I was dabbling in a little college, but nothing was really jazzing me up. I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a leap. I want an adventure. I want a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's when I, signed the dotted line. Navigating through all that was really cool, but also pretty intense because that was a deployment for me, but very memorable as well. I realized there were a lot of people that they weren't ready to leave home. They weren't prepared to do anything militarily, any military training. So they kind of shortchanged themselves by not coming in prepared. Hard to replicate that anywhere else.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of other organizations where you can feel that level of success and impact that you do in the military.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Career Education Learning Center podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Rivers. I am honored and thrilled to have on our show as we celebrate Military Appreciation Month, Jennifer Amato. Jennifer is a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Air Force. How are you doing today, Jennifer?
Hi, Mitchell. It's great to see you and talk to you again. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Yes, it's great. It's great to be here.
Jennifer, why did you choose to go to the Air Force rather than any other branch of service?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, my stepdad had been an Air Force graduate from the Air Force Academy in 1963, and he was no longer serving in the Air Force when I became part of his family. He became part of my family,
Yes.
But definitely he had a strong influence on me. Everything in the house was Air Force memorabilia, Air Force stories. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And when I was feeling kind of stuck in my life and not happy with where I was waiting tables and I was dabbling in a little college, but nothing was really jazzing me up. I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a leap. I want an adventure. I want a challenge.
Yes.
And that's when I, signed the dotted line and got ready to go head out for some Air Force training. So that was the jump start.
So he did not influence you at all to go to Air Force. You made up your own decision that's what I want to do, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and I think that's great for parents to know. It's ironic that the last guest I had on my show who went to the Army, but her father, and the father has a lot more influence on daughters than people realize. And that he didn't force her to go in the Army. That's what she chose. And to hear you with the same story is great because I want parents you can't pressure your son or daughter to go where you want them to go. And you have a son, so you know that, right?
That's right.
You have to let them lead their own path. So when you went to the Air Force, did you go in as enlisted?
I did. Yeah, I was enlisted.
And how was that journey for you? Because I know you, as I stated before, you retired as Lieutenant Colonel. So you went from enlisted to officer training school. Tell us about that experience.
Sure. Well, I knew I wanted to be in shape before I went to basic training because I did not want to be the one falling out of run or not able to take care of myself, whatever challenge they threw at us. So I was doing a lot of running and working out. We had a little home gym set up in the basement. So I was doing that a lot. And I went to basic training feeling strong, feeling really good about myself. And, that goes a long way when you've got some confidence. I know I was rooming, because you're in this big bay with lots of bunk beds and just crammed full of people and everything's rush. But in the quiet moments when we can get to interact with our teammates, the people in our unit, I realized there were a lot of people that they weren't ready to leave home or they weren't prepared to do anything militarily, any military training. So they kind of shortchanged themselves by not coming in prepared. And then the transition from enlisted to officer was pretty easy when I realized some really cool people that I worked with in my unit were officers and I couldn't fraternize with them. I couldn't hang out with them. So I started investigating hey, what is it going to take for me to be able to be friends with them? Well, I have to get some gold bars on my shoulders, and get my college degree knocked out. And that was really the big obstacle, is get your college degree and then meet the requirements for officer training, which, because it's a college program, it's just like another college course that you just do, another elective essentially that you roll into your college experience. And then when you spill out at the other end with a college degree, you're also getting a commission at the same time. So it really worked very well for me. The evolution was great. I had a short gap between my enlisted and officer career because I had a couple of years of 3 years of college I needed to finish, because all of my dabbling early on didn't really end up giving me a lot of credit.
That's okay. That's okay. I think that's good for young people to know that, hey, when you come out of high school, or even in your 20s, you really don't know what you want to do all the time. Right. And so for you to dabble here and there is good, because then you did find your path and what you wanted to do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just helps you, build your character, build your interests, make you realize what's really important to you, what's really interesting to you. One of the funny things that I did too, when I signed the papers for the Air Force, they're like, we're going to put you under a delayed enlistment program because, they have quotas they have to meet, and they have different numbers that they have already accounted for each month. And so they said, we really need you to have like a 6-month delay and roll in, in 6 months. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I knew I was on the hook to be going into the Air Force, but then I had the 6-month window. So I signed up at a temp agency and did whatever kind of odd jobs, that the temp agency needed. So I was doing all kinds of creative, wild things. Sometimes I was doing landscaping. Sometimes I was building shelving for a new hardware store. Wow. It was all over the place. So it is fun to dabble and just to kind of, because sometimes you really find things that you love that way that you wouldn't have stumbled on maybe another direction, unless you have a contact, that has honed it over the period of years before you're ready to go into the job market.
Yeah. And also you can find out what you don't like, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not doing this the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh. Those construction jobs, I was so banged up. we'd have a hard hat. And I would come back and I'd look bruised, like I fell from a 50-foot, banging my legs all the time. So yeah, it was much less bruising when I was in the Air Force, sitting at a desk, taking care of missions in an office setting, which was very nice.
The one thing I noticed while talking to you is that you stated that you went to college while you was in the Air Force. So did Air Force pay for your college?
Yes. I got tuition assistance, and they have a it's a very simple process where you sign up for the classes, and then you get some reimbursement for your tuition. And then, of course, you've got to be in good standing. So if you don't do well in the class or you fail a class, that tuition assistance doesn't keep coming. You can't be performing well in school and passing your classes. But yeah, it was very helpful.
Yeah, and I also did the same thing too, Jennifer. Except I went to reserves. So I went to the Army Reserve. They helped pay for my education. And I would just want young people to know that there are a myriad of ways in which you can pay for your education if you choose to do that. And she chose to go regular, what we call regular Air Force, rather than the Guard. And I chose to go the Army Reserve. And so, like I said before, I think they paid up for $1,000 per year for 4 years. That was part of my tuition reimbursement there. Which back then, ladies and gentlemen, I know that's way back in the 80s. So college was not as expensive as it is now, okay?
That's right.
Especially, Jennifer, because I went to community college, so that really paid for about everything. That's right. I got my grant aid, Pell Grant, and I got a scholarship one year. I really came out with no debt, out of college because of the military and odd jobs. And Jennifer, just to let you know, I worked one summer where I worked for a temp agency, and I did like you. I had a myriad of jobs. I had everything from moving to kitchen to whatever I could do. And I found out what I didn't like more than what I did like.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to get a taste of a lot of variety of things. And then, you have a lot of experience under your belt as well, getting through it.
Well, one thing about the military that I talked to a lot of military guys is travel. How much traveling did you do while you was in the military, Jennifer?
Oh my gosh, a lot of traveling. And I was a single parent when I was an officer and partly enlisted. I had my son when I was halfway through my enlisted time. And we not only for your assignments, but then you have training requirements that will take you out of your assignment area to another state or a different base, wherever the training is happening. So yeah, there's a lot of travel, and that's what's exciting. That's what we loved. And I think now my son today, he lives in California, but he has always loved bouncing around, trying new places, having a different experience with cultures and food and just different scenery, you know, different landscapes. So it's just a wonderful opportunity. And military members, even though the Air Force has to assign you to places where there's the need, the mission has the need, or we need people to do the mission that you're trained to do, you do have a voice in that. You do have a say-so in that, and you can list your preferences. So I very often was assigned to places that I wanted to go from a list of options. So it's nice to be able to have that kind of control, and they're paying for it. You don't have to pack it up. They're sending a team to help box up all your stuff and put it on a truck and get you there. So it's a lot of fun, and it's great. You know, we have great conversations in our family now, reflecting on my Air Force time, just because my family, you know, would visit me or help me unpack the stuff, you know, once it was in the new place. And we all have good memories from those years.
And how much did that traveling, and I love cultural experiences, how much did you think they helped you and your son as far as broaden your horizons and just make you aware of other cultures, and how much you come to embrace the world?
Absolutely. Well, the big thing is you have to bloom where you're planted. You have to, you know, embrace the new community, the new neighborhood, the new school, the new job, the teammates that you're being asked to plug into. And it's kind of, it makes it easy in a way, when the Air Force is telling you they need you in a new place and you go there, it makes it easy because if you don't have a job that requires you to move and forces you to embrace a new place, then it's easy to kind of get stuck in your own habits, in your own neighborhood, and you never, I think change is growth. Change is growth. So we grow by changing and by trying new things and doing new things. And the Air Force really was wonderful. And any service is wonderful for challenging you and letting you be a very adaptable person.
Yes. Adaptability is real crucial there. And I think the more that you had to move, the more you learn to adapt. The more you get as far as your
you become really good at creative problem solving too, because there's always issues that pop up and you have to think, okay, and you become better at analytical thinking and creative problem solving, and then also collaborating with people and asking for help. Asking for help is a big one, because when you're brand new to an area and you don't know anything, you don't know where the roads are, where the grocery stores are, you know, where's the good neighborhood to live in, you know, where's the better schools, you know, you count on people that have lived there for a while, your other Air Force friends that become your family, to say, hey, give me some hints on this, or what should I do about this? And it's really refreshing because you create a bond very quickly with people when you know that they've got your back and that you can be helpful to them later down the road.
And see, ladies and gentlemen, if I was in the regular Army and I traveled like Jennifer did, my first place would be who got the best barbecue, who got the best ribs, or who got the best Italian food, or spaghetti, or pizza.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
Or Chinese food. Where we at? We're in Asia. What's the best Asian food? What's the best Italian food? What's the best Swedish food? Whatever we're at, my first thing would be, where are the restaurants?
Where can I eat?
You know, where are the restaurants?
That's right. That's very important. Yeah, we got to know that. You got to know that stuff.
And so having that adaptability within you and then learning that, did that help you the way you did your duty stations? And what type of jobs did you do while you was in the Air Force?
Well, I had mostly administrative office related jobs, but you know, sometimes it could be mundane tasks of building a binder for senior leaders that are coming for a conference, and they have to have a binder for the whole week's events. So there'll be different briefings and different notes pages and talking papers or whatever is added. So there was one, you know, as a young lieutenant, there was a time when I was doing a lot of conference planning, prep, and organization. And then that also requires coordinating different meeting rooms and setting up the projectors and getting all the technology squared away and making sure you have a lunch plan or a catering plan. So it's a lot of kind of support roles.
Yeah.
And then I've, you know, worked in an ROTC unit. So we were helping train ROTC students, cadets, as they were going through, again, that elective to become an officer. And there was all kinds of physical training and just managing classes. We had to teach classes and then provide an evaluation to help students become their very best, and help them figure out, is this really what you want to do? Is this a good fit for your life or for your personality? Because sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes, wearing a uniform wasn't the best. And there were just so many wonderful things. And then overseas, we did a lot of coordination again to help people, senior leaders. I'm talking about a Secretary of the Air Force and Navy admirals, very high level people in our government that wanted to go into Afghanistan and learn, for the many years that we were in Afghanistan, where was our money being well spent? How were we helping Afghans improve their lives? Were we improving their training? Were they improving their military? We wanted to help them get on their feet and be successful in the country. So coordinating for our U.S. leaders to come in, took a lot of coordination and a lot of work because there were a lot of hazards and a lot of interesting people that they needed to see. So navigating through all that was really cool, but also pretty intense because that was a deployment for me, but very memorable as well.
And how much, the thing I'm coming across, Jennifer, is the organization skills that you developed and had to have when you come in. Do you stress those same organizational skills when you're teaching ROTC to our young people? How much organizational skills, time management, collaboration, teamwork, all that comes into play? Was that stress during the ROTC time?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? It comes to in different projects that we have to do. Cadets first are students. Their number one priority is to get good grades in whatever their chosen degree is, and to really nail that. And then in addition, they have a lot of opportunities to lead and to be great teammates within the ROTC construct. Just like you would have if you were a small child in the Boy Scouts, you have projects, you have things you need to do to be successful in the Boy Scouts or whatever, team you're a part of. So the Air Force is just another higher level organization that requires the same kind of skill sets. And I think the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yes.
And every job and every project requires something a little bit different. Sometimes you need to be more of a leader. Sometimes you need to be more of a follower. And what's great about the team construct that all of our service, entities are seeking or wanting, is the variety of tasks that you're going to have to do and the variety of skills that you're going to have to manage. And it's nice that, we can't all be good at one thing, the same things. So wherever my weaknesses are, hey, I'm going to say Mitchell's really good at this. I'm going to let Mitchell come in and help us with X, Y, or Z because I know this is a strength. And so you start to play off each other's strengths so you can build the best team and have the greatest success for whatever the mission requires, small or large.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I learned in the military too, how important teamwork is and maximizing everyone's strengths and minimizing their weaknesses. And that's very important. That's in any type of job you have. So I was in retail management and other jobs that I have in leadership positions. And that's one thing that you have to learn. You have to learn about budgeting, you have to learn about inventory, and the most important, you have to learn about people. And what you want to do is, what I was taught was, you want to maximize people's strengths and minimize their weaknesses. And when you do have a project, as you stated earlier, is that you want to go ahead and see who's best at work to maximize the whole project.
That is so true. Absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes it's just not a formal class. It's learned by doing and by having mentors, because there's always somebody that's a senior person in whatever project you're doing. And they have to not only be wrangling all the different people and knowing what their skill sets are, but making sure everybody's clear on what is the end objective that we're going for. And that helps greatly when you have a strong person in that leadership role. So
we're talking about things that you got to acquire, but I'm sure there's missed challenges that you have to overcome. What was some challenges that you had to overcome, Jennifer, during your time in the Air Force? Do you remember any particular challenge or story that you have? On there that you had to overcome, because we all had our challenges. That I want my students or I want my audience to know that, hey, the military is fine, but at the same time, as you hear from Jennifer acquiring these skills, that there are challenges. And tell us about a challenge that you may have had and how you overcame those challenges.
Yes. Well, the two biggest challenges that I experienced is, one, you're always going to have some kind of a personality conflict at some point with somebody. And mitigating that can be tricky, especially if you have to see or work with them all the time, and you always have these friction points that you feel. And a lot of times I would reduce that by involving other people that I knew could help soften the interaction. If there was like a strain or a personality thing between me and one other person, I would involve other people so it wouldn't be just us directly having friction points. And then we also have a lot of wonderful classes that we can take. For example, there will be different organizations on base on an installation that will say, hey, we're doing a lunchtime, bring a bag lunch, and we're going to learn about, conflict management, or we're going to learn about, some other fun subject or useful subject within a team office environment. And so you can, pack a lunch and go to this thing for free and learn something and gain some valuable tools while you're also, sharing lunch with some other people. So that's really great. Because there's you don't want to have to always have a friction point with somebody that you're working with. And sometimes it stems from something silly, a misunderstanding or some miscommunication that could easily be cleared up if you just kind of talk through it. So communicating with somebody can go a long way. And then the other biggest challenge that I had was just being a single parent and then having to go for a 6 weeks training out of state, that I had to make plans for my son for those 6 weeks that I wasn't going to be his mama, or with him, because I had to be somewhere else. And that's where my family was super helpful. But we also leaned heavily on my Air Force family, where he had to stay with family members that were on our soccer team, or other military families that could take care of him for a part of the time that I was going to be gone. So there was a lot of juggling. And I think also that also made a very adaptable child for me, is because now as a grown up, like he's had to adapt and manage and navigate through so many different things as a kiddo that now that he's a grown person, he can really be very empathetic and very helpful and great a team player, because he's just been through a lot of stuff and he's had to navigate through a lot of things. Yeah.
And he learned that adaptability. He really did. And that's great right there, to where, those young experiences that one have can also come in as transferable skills as he get, later on in life. Absolutely. And then so when he had to change and do this, he's already been through that already, and it makes it easier for the transition.
Yes.
And what do you miss most, Jennifer? Not just you retired and you look back on it. What do you miss most about your military family or being in the Air Force?
Well, there's a sense of accomplishment when you all are achieving a goal. That's so great because you have such great camaraderie and you work hard. Sometimes you have to stay late. Sometimes you're working through lunch. Sometimes, you're coming in on the weekend. I mean, you're doing whatever needs to be done to get something accomplished. And when you finally get it to the finish line, it's so rewarding and it feels so good. And, you're just one small cog in a big wheel, a big engine that's churning with a lot of decision making, a lot of activity, a lot of just, effort. And when you apply the effort with teammates that you know well, and everybody's injecting their different strengths and their different ideas to make something happen, when it's all done, that is such a great feeling. And, it's hard to replicate that anywhere else. Yeah. There's not a lot of other organizations where you can feel that level of success and impact that you do in the military, because it's just such unique things that don't always translate to civilian life, particularly when you're in Afghanistan or in Qatar or any of the Middle Eastern countries where I was, stationed. So, because everybody recognizes we're far from home, we're out of our normal comfort zone, we're creating a new energy, a new collaboration here with our teammates in this new place. And then and sometimes you have to make things happen within a very short window. And sometimes not 100% of the information you might need or 100% of the resources you might want to make something successful. And you just have to be creative, resourceful, do the best that you can. And when you get it to the finish line, it's like, yes, that's a great win for us. And it's wonderful. It's really great.
Oh, that is fantastic. I mean, I was in the military for a short amount of time. I did end up going to Desert Shield at the Storm, as I mentioned in my other podcast. And that's when I really learned how much teamwork really is important, when you put to the test there. Before we leave, Jennifer, do you have any advice or suggestions for young people that want to maybe go into the military?
Oh my gosh. It is such an exciting prospect and it's such a noble profession. It requires the best of you. So you want to be the best that you can be before you sign up. Like I worked really hard to get myself in physical shape and to mentally prepare. And it's good for you. It's good for you and it's good for your community and for our country. So, and it's exciting. As a retired person, every month I get a wonderful check for serving 28 years. And they're like, you know what? We want to reward you and we're going to send you a pension check. And because I live in the state of North Carolina, that pension check is not taxed. So I have a different job, as you know, working retail, that I am taxed on, but my military pension money that comes in every month is not taxed. So that's a wonderful cushion nest egg for me in my retirement. And it gives me a little bit of freedom and flexibility to do things I might otherwise not. So all in all, it's been a very rewarding career. I highly recommend it. There are so many wonderful missions and tasks that you can be assigned in any military service, but it's just the number of good things that happens for you, the friendships that you build, the skills that you learn, the adventures that you have, the experiences, they're all so rich and so wonderful that I highly recommend it to anybody. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for serving our country. I forgot to do that in the beginning.
Well, thank you, Mitchell. Same for you.
And thank you so much for coming on our show today, Jennifer. I really do appreciate it.
It's great to see you and talk about it. I love it. I hope it'll be useful to somebody.
Oh, I'm sure it will. And I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for joining me, Mitchell Rivers, on another terrific episode of the Career Education Learners in the Podcast, where we're making your career dreams a reality. God bless.